I will now call to order tonight's meeting for the Evanston Preservation Commission. For April 12th, 2022, we have 7 commissioners present, which is a quorum. For those of you that are not familiar with our meetings, the staff will read your submission into record, and then you will step up to the podium. If you could please introduce yourself, and if you haven't already done so, if you could please sign in on the sheet. I believe, Carlos, there's a sheet on the podium.
There is.
If you could please sign in to the sheet, and then you can present your submission, your case to the commission. We will then take the opportunity to ask you questions and ask for public comment. If there is no public comment, then the commission will deliberate the case, and then we will obviously make a motion and do a vote. So with that said, Kay, do you want to read the first record?
The first case is case number 22 PRES 0033, 1322 Lake Street in the Ridge Historic District in a registered landmark. David Roberts, architect, submits for a certificate of appropriateness to construct a front porch addition at the front elevation of the residence. Applicable standards: construction 1 through 2, 4 through 8, and 10 through 15. Dave, would you like to come up and give a short presentation?
Good evening. I'm Kitty Culbert, and this is my husband, John Culbert.
And this is our architect, David Roberts. And just wanted to say a couple things. We've selected to work with David on a few projects now, and because when we were thinking of some projects, when we looked around town at other projects that people were doing, we were really attracted to the clear sensitivity to sort of historical architecture that he brings to all of his work, and so that meshed with our interests there. And we are both theater people, and so we like things that have stories. So old houses, I've always been attracted to old houses. I don't plan on living in anything but an older house that has a lot of stories, and so that's really what led us to looking. 28 years ago, when we were looking for a house in Evanston, that's what led us to look here. And we were really looking for a house that still had its architectural integrity, which, as you know, some older houses have been, improved to the extent that they don't have that anymore. So we feel really privileged to be the sort of current custodians, is how we think of it, of 1322 Lake Street, our current house. And we're, pleased that it's a landmark house in the historic district, and that, it's part of a neighborhood that, in fact, has this process, as we believe in this as a way of maintaining the integrity of the neighborhood, and that's the beauty of it and the welcoming nature of it. So we've done some other recent projects on the house in collaboration with David. So we did a garage most recently, just a few years ago, and then not long before that, a rear entry porch. Both of those projects, of course, went through this project, and also both received Evanston Preservation Awards. And our goal with all of those, and many years ago now, we redid a screen porch on the house that has similar detailing to what you see in our proposal now, and the rear entry of the house and so on. So this has been a sort of long-term commitment on our part to doing things that we believe maintain the integrity of the house, and then contribute to the sort of architectural integrity of the neighborhood, and thus the sort of quality of it, as we believe that is important to maintaining the attractiveness of the neighborhood. So. So now Kitty's going to say something about why we want a front porch.
Yeah, so it's hard to believe we're finally here, because this has been on our wish list since 28 years ago when we first bought the house. We said, wow, someday that would be so cool to put a front porch back here where it used to be. So we've been waiting for this for a long time. And partly I do think it looks unbalanced without the porch, because it used to have one there. So it kind of looks, the front facade looks a little blank without it. So I kind of think it is kind of crying out for its old porch that it used to have. We also think that porches just really add to a neighborhood. Like when we will go walking and we'll say, this is such a nice block, and we realize that a lot of the houses have front porches. It just makes them really seem really friendly. And, there's just, I think, kind of a social media in this electronic world without any electronics. You can sit on your porch and get to know your neighbors, and so that's also a nice benefit, I think. So, yeah, we just think a front porch would be really beneficial to the neighborhood and the town.
We have, over the years, we've compiled a history of the house, some of which you see in the packet. And that's based on information at the Evanston History Center and also from talking to prior owners of the house, one of whom stopped by one day and told me about putting up the wallpaper in our dining room in 1954. So,
Which is still there.
It's still there, yeah.
Yep.
So that's fun. And but, so just briefly, the house was built in 1865, and it was on Davis, right across from where the post office is currently. It was moved in 1916, as were the houses on either side of our house, to the current location. And, the fire maps indicate that it had a front porch both when it was at Davis and after it was moved to Lake Street. And then the 1930s fire map still shows a front porch at Lake Street. Then I have a gap in my records until 1947 when I have a photograph of the house that doesn't have a porch. So I assume somewhere between 1930 and 47 it rotted and they put in the concrete stoop that is a sort of unfortunate concrete stoop in a little hill that's there in place of a porch right now. So as Kitty said, we've been dreaming of the day where we could imagine putting back what was original equipment in terms of a front porch. But I have not been able to locate a photograph of the original porch, so I don't have that evidence. But we did research a number of porches in Evanston of similar houses, and also looked at Victorian architecture books about to get the principles of what this porch would have been probably in 1865. So with that, I think we'll just turn it over to David to talk more about the design.
Thank you. I'm David Roberts. I will sign in officially here.
Hi, David. If you could speak to the mic, would be good.
Will do.
Thank you.
Please remind me if I stray from that, as I might.
You're good. You're
Okay.
good. Thank you.
John and Kitty gave you all the reasons why we're here tonight, and working with them on this lovely house has been a real pleasure for me professionally and personally too, because of their passion for the house and their passion for preserving as much as they can, and in this case, trying to reimagine what was there before. The evidence John talked about, there was clearly a front porch. We've kept it within the dimensional confines of what was shown on those fire maps, but that's all the information we have about that front porch. So using the rest of the architecture of the house, the screen porch, the back porch, the character of the house, the brackets, and maybe we want to switch to that. Thank you. Right there. Where am I looking at, Carlos, here? The star. Very good. Thank you. So this is the back porch that was done several years ago, and that back porch followed the character of the screen porch that you see here, which was before it. Same columns, same brackets, and those brackets are the same exactly as are on the house as it originally was. Those brackets are all still up there and in beautiful shape. The house has been maintained well over the years. Originally, it was not stucco. At one point, while working on this, we could see that there was horizontal siding, lap siding underneath all that thin But we're not going back to that. The house has been stucco for a long time. So figuring out a front porch to go there, it's a challenge for sure. And knowing what we know about the original one, it went from that corner over to the east side of the house here to that corner and filled in that space. Right now, there's that concrete stairway there, and I presume everybody had done their walk over there to see it. Again, what we were trying to do was to use the materials and the same vocabulary that's already established. These two bay windows have lovely little roof with a metal roof on it. When the back porch was added, the same metal roof and detail was included there, so we followed all that through. On the front porch, what is in front of you today, and could we go to the next elevations? Thank you. Can we zoom in on any of this, or please keep going to the elevations of the front porch? Yeah. There, that's better. Thank you. So again, following the character that we're given with these two bay windows on the north and the east side, we present a roof that is of similar slope. Can't be exactly the same, just given the dimensions and so on, but it would be the same material, lead-coated copper with a standing seam, an inlaid gutter in this case, and then we'll take that gutter and attach it to an existing downspout that comes from the second floor. And I think our hope is to quietly tie that into that without adding more downspouts or anything like that. It'll just have this little connection there. The porch itself, wood stairs coming up to the front. Again, much as in the same position that it was originally. Supported by piers below, which we're proposing as stucco to match the rest of the house. So same color, same material, we'll follow through with that. In closing the bottom, we'll have a wood lattice. The color of that's yet to be determined, but it'll be complementary with the rest of the house, the way that John and Kitty have it set right now. No, we're not introducing any new colors to this. The columns supporting the porch, there's 5 of them. We have one at the corner, and that will sit right up against the corner of the house, of that corner of the house, just kissing the corner of the house. So we're going to leave the established stucco. We're not carving into that. We'll leave that. We'll bring that column right up to it. So it's a full column, not a pilaster. And the same thing for this corner of the porch. It'll be a full column, not a pilaster, so we really get a nice full expression of that column. The difference between these columns and the columns you saw on the back elevation on the porch and on the screen porch are the following. It's the base here. We're setting these columns on a pier that will be made out of wood like the columns, and if we go a little closer, hopefully we can pick up some detail on that. Thank you. The column has a slight recess in there from the body of the column. There's a base, there's a cap that recesses in, and there's a little molding that goes around the inside of that. This allows us to have the railing with these more expressive balusters, more expressive than the back. The back porch, we just put square balusters on there. It's a back porch. We kept that simple. And actually, during the planning of the back porch, we were already talking about the front porch, so some of this was already in play in our minds in John and Kitty's mind, and they included me in on that. And so we had thought, well, maybe we'll save this kind of detail for the front, where typically, of course, the front porch would be a more ornate. This is Italianate design based on what the Evanston History Center says about it, and we don't argue with that. So again, those tops are the same, and then what we've done here is the beam comes across the same as it is in the back, and then what we've done here is introduce a little bit of an arch, elliptical. This one's slightly elliptical, this one is elliptical, and they'll span across there. The spacing between this column and this column is the same as between this column and this column. Clearly, there are a lot of ways to look at this, as all the architects and designers in the room and everyone else can see, is that spacing of these columns could be in a number of different ways. The width of the stair could be something different too. There's several versions that we explored, and we spent quite a bit of time exploring these, built a model to really understand it, and to develop whatever we thought was the best scheme. What we're presenting to you tonight is what we feel is appropriate for this house at this time. I don't want to take up any more of our time. I think it was suggested we use 10 minutes, and we're already at 15, so apologies on that.
Are there any questions by commissioners?
Yes. The front door and the transom panel above and the arch above that are I'm assuming that the porch roof will be, ceiling will be sloped on the inside, and you're just going to dodge the top of the arch?
Correct. Good
Okay.
point. Thank you for pointing that out. I neglected to say that, but yes. So as much as tradition dictates the porch ceiling is flat, that can't happen here. To your point, it would slope up on the inside. Underneath, it'll slope up like the roof, so that the original arch of this door and window and all that lovely detail will still exist behind it. We show it as dashed lines because it does continue to exist, and it will not be disturbed. Thank you.
Dave,
Yeah, please.
From the, we did a little drawing, so from the sidewalk, if you're standing on the sidewalk, the regular street sidewalk in front of the house, you will see the top of that door. The sight line is such that you'll see under the elliptical thing, you'll still see the top of the door. So visually from the street, you'll still see the whole transom on that door. Because you're lower, obviously, when you're on the sidewalk.
I apologize. Can you just repeat what your client said, because we need to have for purposes of recording?
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
So what Mr. Colbert said was that as you stand on the front sidewalk in front of the house, if you're walking down the sidewalk and you look up, the sight line is such that you will look under this elliptical trim here, and you will see the full door and that full arched casing that comes across the top with a little bit of a crown that runs across there.
I assume the second floor planter box is going to be a casualty. But that's probably the only casualty of the project, right? Are there any other questions by commissioners?
Just one question, please. Can you remind me about the materials that you'll be using for the columns and the railing and?
Certainly. Predominantly, the columns and the balusters and the railings will be cypress, so they'll be wood. And that's a good durable material that will hold up.
Any other questions? No? If you'd like to sit down, and then we'll go ahead and deliberate. Is there any comments by commissioners or items of discussion on this case? No? Would someone like to make a motion? John? You mind?
Sure.
Oh, and just so that everybody knows, we're not going to do a roll call vote tonight, if that's okay with you, Carlos. We'll just do all in favor and any opposed, okay? Okay, go ahead, John, thanks.
Just getting to the right page. Okay, I move, excuse me, regarding 1322 Lake Street, Ridge Historic District landmark, case 22 PRES-0033. I move that we issue a certificate of appropriateness to construct a front porch addition at the front elevation of the residence. Applicable standards, construction 1 and 2, 4 through 8, and 10 through 15.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Beth seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So the motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Do you want me to, Kate, if you want to introduce the next case, please?
The next case is 22 PRES-0034, 1211 Hinman Avenue in the Lakeshore Historic District. Paul Janicki, architect, submits for a certificate of appropriateness to enclose an existing roof side entry porch for habitable space, alter the principal structure's fenestration with new window locations, install solar panels at the south roof face behind the south gable. Applicable standards, alteration 1 through 10, construction 3 through 4, 7 through 8, 10, 12, and 13 through 14, as well as the Commission's solar design guidelines. Paul?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Janicki. I'm the architect on this project. I will sign in. So just a quick little explanation. The original architect was Stephen Jennings. Jennings did a few houses in Evanston. They're all very, very beautiful. But then he, after 5 years, he left and went to work in Seattle, where he also did some really beautiful buildings. This I'm going to loosely call a Queen Anne gambrel roofed house with the traditional front porch. What's odd is that there's a lot of casement windows on the front elevation. So I don't believe this was, compared to his other houses, I don't believe this was sort of this facade is not perfectly original. There's been some changes, I think, in window types. I don't think he used any casement windows on his houses, so that kind of jumps out at me. But be that as it may, the new owners are trying to capture some space for a mudroom, and the rear porch seemed to be kind of a pretty good candidate for that, in that it's sort of not visible from the street, really. The houses are very tightly spaced there, and also it's sort of an unused space because it's sort of a rear porch. I'm not sure what it was originally used for, but it's not, they have a lot of outdoor living space, so it's not really something they need. The other elements are windows, and the front parlor has a couple of big casement windows with transoms, and so we want to get more light. There they are. We want to get more light into the living room and view out onto the front porch, which would be real lovely. So we were proposing putting another of these casement windows. Of course, the transom doesn't fit underneath the roof of the porch, so we eschewed trying to make the window smaller and get a transom over it and just use the same size window. When we enclose the porch, we put a window in there that's going to be for like a little, like sort of a pantry wet bar, and then the window facing, sorry, Kate, I'm making you run through them. That's the new porch window. You can see there's the rear porch. It's empty, of course, because there's
Excuse me,
nothing there.
Paul, there's a pointer there you can use if you,
Oh, yeah, sure, why not? So I burn my red.
here's the
there or
top
something.
star there.
Just this thing? Aha, look at that. There's the rear porch there. It's open underneath at the moment. We would pour foundation all the way down, and then you would enter from the rear yard through the door and into this mudroom. This window here is a new window proposed, and that's another double hung, wood double hung. What you see up here, these are rafter tails, by the way. I know it's confusing. And then we want to continue the brick base throughout, just like the original house. Up here, the owner wants to do, some solar collectors. I'm usually not really a fan of solar collectors on historic houses, but because the way of these gables are situated and that this part of the roof is not visible from the street, from if you're standing or driving or even across the street. So that's why we're proposing this. We do not have a solar panel firm. They just took possession of the house, so it's just something they want to propose to you to see if it resonates with you. And then if it does, then they would take the next step of having a firm come in and do a study. Okay, you want to move forward? Thank you, Kate. Here's the old porch, open porch. It has some sort of lattice underneath it, but I don't think it's original, but I could be wrong. There's an existing rear door here, and that would be the new mudroom door. And then the proposed shows this enclosed with the same size clapboard as the original house, and then again the brick base. Of course, we're leaving all this trim intact with the rafter tails and all that. What else can I tell you about that? This, of course, this rear porch and this whole thing is some ersatz thing that they ended up, someone put on there like in the 90s or something. And you want to move forward? And this elevation you can see faces north, and in this space here, there's like a little breakfast area, but it's just totally, shut off from light. And if you want to go on the next slide, Kate, thank you. We're proposing 3 fixed casements here that would be, in the same vernacular as the ones that face the south, which has a really beautiful leaded glass pattern. And I think that, and there's some close-ups here of some of the stuff. Here's the window again. We're using the same casing around these as the picture windows in the, and then these heads align, the sills align, but of course this transom cannot be replicated here. And if you want to go to the next one. Again, here's the ones that we're sort of mimicking on the north elevation, and here's this smallish, I'd like to align these things, but it just wasn't possible. It's sort of a forgotten elevation anyway in my mind, but anyway, this is a little double hung wood window that is into the little pantry bar area. And then so this whole mudroom is actually very tall because it can be. Plus, you have this landing and then a stair going up. So what the idea was is to do a whole bunch of cabinetry below that window line, and then on the other elevations of the room, take the cabinetry all the way up to the ceiling. Not probably you care, but that's the reason why the window is at this. Plus, it felt comfortable being engaged with this cornice. And then again here, we're matching the head height here, and then these are almost pretty much identical size leaded glass fixed casements to the ones on the south. I think that might be it. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Sure. Are there any questions from commissioners? So,
Yes.
go ahead, John.
Hi, Paul. So the new openings, there's the new triple window at the breakfast room.
Right.
And that leaded pattern will match the window on the bay you showed us.
Exactly.
Okay, and then the new double hung at the mudroom.
The new double hungs in the mudroom. are, oh, there. I'm sorry, that one, that's the
Yes.
one you're talking about, sorry, yes.
And then there's a new 6-panel door going into the mudroom. Are those the
No,
only?
that's actually original. I mean, it's not original. It's sort of not a wonderful looking aluminum, I think, door, but it's there. I'd love to change it, but I haven't been asked to change it. Then those casements above pretty much have a very similar light proportion to the other casements. So the opening of the lights are almost identical.
Okay, and whose windows are going to be the new windows?
We haven't chosen one yet. There'll be either probably a Colby or a Marvin. And it's really right now because of lead times. It's all over the map, and then Colby will promise us that they can do it in 20 weeks, and then so we forget Marvin, and then they come back and go, no, it's 36 weeks, and then Marvin comes back, oh, we can do it in 24 weeks. It's like, ah. So we haven't done any construction drawings. I'm here tonight sort of just to see conceptually, is this something that it will resonate with you guys? And if it does, then we'll come back with working drawings, obviously, and we'll show all those details. And if you'd like, I will just provide you guys details soon before we finish the set. If you'd like to review the windows, that might be one way around it. I just don't know right now what we're going to use. There will be an all-wood window, like I've said.
Okay.
All wood.
Not clad, all wood.
Oh, God, never, no clad. All be wood. They'll all be, I'm pretty sure they'll all be simulated divided light with spacer bars. The casements, what we like to do with the casements is we order a fixed casement, and then we have our leaded glass person make the leaded glass panel, and then the carpenter will make a very, very small frame for it, and then we'll, depending on whether we want the leaded glass on the exterior or if we want it on the interior, we'll place it inside the jamb, connect it, caulk it, paint it so it's kind of seamless, and the glass size is exactly the same. So when you look at it, it kind of looks like an original leaded glass window, but you still get the energy efficiency out of it. That's the way we've been doing it. That's what we'll probably do here too.
Do we know anything about the age or the significance of the existing windows to remain?
I would guess, and I'm just guessing because I can't find historical photos of it. I'm guessing that the windows on the west elevation, the main principal facade, are original. The big picture ones with the transoms. I think the casement windows are totally like a thing that somebody else threw in there. I just don't see it as being original.
Okay.
I think that the leaded glass are original. They're kind of put into a built-in cabinet. I mean, they're definitely original.
I think I saw something that it was 2005. There was a COA they received for window replacement sometime in the last 15 years.
That could be, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
One quick question. You didn't have the manufacturer for the solar panels chosen yet?
No, we don't. I mean, they're standard size. I mean, I've just taken a standard size photovoltaic that's on the market, that everyone makes. I think it's like 33 by 78 or something like that. And we put them up there. And we put them up as many as I feel you could put up and not, see them from the street, basically. And they're kind of in a nice spot. They're faced straight south. I mean, it's really a kind of a nice, very unusual that you get the cross cable to kind of cover up that stuff. Again, I'd prefer not to do any, but I shouldn't be saying that. I prefer not to have them at all, but I understand it totally, yeah.
So, go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, I have two questions. Hello.
Sure.
For the new window that you're proposing on the west elevation by the front door, I was curious, I can't quite tell where the sill is, what the sill height is. Is it going to be?
Yeah, I should have made another drawing. The sill height is exactly the same as the sill height of the two existing ones on that elevation.
Okay.
Sorry, the drawing's really bad there. I realize that now.
That's okay. And is the porch roof flat? Is that why you can't go ahead and try to get the one?
Yeah, the underside is a beadboard, flat as a
That's
slat.
why you don't have it. Okay.
Yeah, beadboard.
Okay. Second question was about the solar panels. Is the client thinking of just maintaining them on that one roof surface? Or it looks like there's even one further back from the front of the house. Were they also thinking of putting additional ones, or is that really all that we're being asked to consider
That's
right
all,
now?
I think that's the only sort of south-facing spot that you could really put them.
There's one, it's just to,
If you go to, yes, keep going around. There we go.
slide 61.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see what you're
just to
saying.
the
There's
right.
another roof behind that.
Yeah, so it's just, what are we being asked to
Yeah,
consider right
that's a
now?
really good question. I mean, I showed them this as a really compact thing. We thought the 10 collectors would probably be, pretty good.
Okay.
As far as getting some payback and, but no, that's a very good question. I suppose if they come back and they want to put some more back on the other south roof, I guess I'll have to come back.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So one thing I wanted to put out there for my fellow commissioners is that for the solar guidelines, typically we see sections through a solar panel, and we often see the material cut sheet. Since this is on a secondary elevation, I wanted to get the commissioners' feeling of, can we do this with maybe some statements and then have it be an administrative review since it is towards the rear of the house? I don't know how people feel about that. But first, if there are no other questions from commissioners, we can obviously have Paul take a seat. Good?
Sure.
Paul, why don't you take a seat and then we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
discuss that.
Could I ask about, so my recollection is the solar guidelines give discretion to the staff, even potentially to approve completely solar panels that are not visible from the street or that are kind of minimally visible, not on the primary facade.
Yeah, go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, that's correct, Mark. We've done that in the past, particularly for non-landmark homes or homes that are non-contributing, but I think it would be appropriate in this instance.
And I think if we made a statement that they were just going to be parallel with the roof plane and that they're low-profile panels with the follow-up administrative review of the materials, the section, and the exact location, I don't know, but I feel like in general, we would be comfortable with that. And then I think the other item would be if Kate or Carlos feel that they need to see any of the window details once they pick a window manufacturer, just to see comparison between the existing and the new. But again, I think that can very easily be done administratively. It would have been probably done administratively if it was the only item anyway.
I agree that we could, but I would like to add that as a condition of the approval on the windows, and if we want the solar panels as well.
So it sounds like if we choose to make a motion, which it sounds like we are, the motion would include the requirements that there's administrative review of the solar panel section and the solar panel material, the product, along with the window sections for the existing and the new.
And if for the solar panels, if the staff can review the location of all the ancillary items that go along with it, that.
I think we
serve
can
it.
add that in the motion. So it would be sections, and I assume, Paul, this is acceptable to you. So it would be the section cuts, the equipment, the actual panel placement, the panel material, and then the window, replacement window sections. But all of that, as Mark brought up, is done administratively often with the secondary elevation anyways. So with that.
I
go
would
ahead.
like to ask, actually, Paul, one more question regarding the solar panels. So are we talking about photovoltaic electrical, not the hot water, passive, okay. And they tend to be propped up at a steeper angle for some reason, and, okay. Okay. Okay, thank you.
So with that list of recommendations for administrative review, is someone willing to make a motion for this case? Mark, you want me to restate, or you've got it now? You know what the list is?
I think
You
so.
got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness for 1211 Hinman Avenue in the Lakeshore Historic District, case 22 Pres 0034, to enclose an existing roof side entry porch for habitable space, alter the principal structure's fenestration with new window locations, and install solar panels at the south roof face behind the south gable. The condition being that the exact product and details for the solar panels, as well as the all of the the exact aspects of the windows, including the windows purchase, would be subject to administrative review. It's the certificate of appropriateness would be in accordance with applicable standards for alteration 1 through 10, and standards for construction 3 and 4, 7 and 8, 10, 12, and 13 to 14, and in accordance with the solar design guidelines.
Is there a second?
Second.
John, second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Great, thank you, Paul. Okay, Kate.
Thank you so
Next.
much, guys. Thanks for all your hard work.
The next case is 22 PRES 0032, 1018 Greenwood Street in the Ridge Historic District. David Salzman, owner, submits for a certificate of appropriateness to construct a second-story addition atop an existing single-story rear addition, construct a single-story attached garage addition with rooftop deck, and alter the structure's front elevation portico. Applicable standards: alteration 1 through 10, construction 1 through 5, 7 through 8, and 10 through 15. And the only correction I'll make is that since this case was noticed, the applicant has removed the alterations to the front portico.
Kate, can you repeat the address?
1018 Greenwood Street.
Thank you.
Okay, David.
Good evening. I'm just signing in. Okay.
And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself?
Yes.
Thank you.
I am David Salzman, the owner of the home at 1018 Greenwood Street in Evanston. So, I'm not quite sure where to begin, other than I do want to have you all review the, and I'm applying for a certificate of appropriateness to put an addition on this house. Where would you like me to start on that then?
I think if you want to go to the elevations, I think those are very telling. And then obviously you have your renderings that you added.
Yeah.
Why don't you walk us through what you're changing as far as the elevations?
Sure. Okay, so these are the existing elevations. And if we could scroll up, what would change is the south elevation. Well, first of all, the north elevation, which is the most visible elevation from the street, would be unchanged. The south elevation would have an added garage, so that would extend out further into the backyard. And then the sided back elevation here of the addition would clearly change the view of the home from the south. The west and east elevations would obviously change as a result of this added bathroom and bedroom addition above the existing flat roof section now of this. This is a family room back here, and then this here is a single-car garage with a proposed parallel garage right next to it here. Also demonstrated here on the east elevation, the added garage next to the existing one, and then the sided bathroom and bedroom above with sort of a small balcony off of the bedroom. So this is a photo rendering of the proposed addition. Yeah, so there's the existing photograph.
And David, if you could maybe talk a little bit about what you're going to do. Is that awning over the door? If you go back up, Cade, if we can just get an understanding, I assume, what goes on above that door and how does that align with the new addition?
So actually, that wall is recessed currently about a foot, and hence the awning up above it. But that awning would be removed, and the new wall would be flush with the brick the facing of the garage. So there wouldn't be an awning up above there.
The new second floor wall. And then the ground floor wall would stay recessed.
The ground floor wall would not stay recessed. It would come out
Okay.
and meet and be flush with the brick.
Okay.
Of the garage.
So your addition would be a completely flush wall on all sides?
Yes,
With the exception of the deck that's on the second floor?
correct.
Okay. And if you could just walk us through a little bit of what your ideas on materials. I know on your rendering, you kind of talk a little bit about your materials, if you want to talk about those.
Okay, yeah, so it's a brick home, and the garage, the existing garage, has a brick. And so I would continue the brickwork for the face of the new garage, and also for this, right now, this back entrance here is basically just glass and aluminum. So we were considering brick here for these two sides on either side of the door, or possibly a painted wood. And then like a hardy board siding up here, or architectural panel, depending on availability or depending on your input on the use of materials for the siding.
Are there any questions by commissioners just on the proposal? And Kate, I believe, not contributing?
The status of the property is a little unique in that it's listed as a non-contributing property, but I think that has more to do with when the National Register District was nominated, which is in the late 1980s.
Huh?
And they likely listed it as non-contributing because at the time it was under 50 years old. I suspect, and I would encourage the commissioners to review it as if it's a contributing structure. I'm sure that if the district were resurveyed, that it would be contributing.
What does that mean exactly? I'm not contributing.
There's two, if you survey a district, there's two types of properties, how they classify them, either contributing or non-contributing.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that the structure as a resource, it either contributes to the architectural characteristics of the district in whole,
Mm-hmm.
or it doesn't contribute to that. So, you might have a non-contributing property because it's been altered really significantly. It doesn't have the architectural integrity that it had when it was first constructed.
Mm-hmm.
But it might also be listed as non-contributing just because it's considered contemporary or it's new. And that threshold in the National Register is 50 years of age. We don't have any standard like that for local district designations. So I suspect in a resurvey, this would certainly be a contributing property. It actually has pretty significant integrity for a building like this. That rear addition actually isn't an addition. That's original to the property. The garage, the attached garage. It has all its original windows that I can tell. It's in good condition.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And I did ask Cade, it is compliant with zoning as far as the addition and impervious services, so that is, go ahead.
I have one question. So you were talking about the door on the other side, I guess where the new kitchen is going to be. Is that wall that you're planning on moving, is that also an aluminum material? That like the grid pattern that's on the existing, on the existing?
Yeah, right now, that's aluminum and glass
Okay.
entirely.
And do we think that's original, Cade?
As far as I can tell, it's original to the property. There's been very few permits pulled for this property, and the original plans from the 1950s show the rear addition. There's no elevations, but it does show that single-story attached garage, which wouldn't be uncommon for the time it was constructed in about the 1950s, I think.
I think it was built in 47.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea, too, about the windows that you wanted to put in the new addition and what type of windows?
Yeah, sure. So all the existing windows are wood, double hung, 12 glass panels. And I would certainly like to keep the look of that for the addition. Actually, my photo rendering shows a window that is not really accurate, because I would like to use a Marvin window that is essentially the same as the existing windows in appearance. However, maybe a little smaller than the existing windows, which are quite large and come down to, I think 10 inches from the floor in all of the rooms of the existing house.
Yeah, I think the second story has, they're double hungs, they're 6/6 wood windows, and then the first floor, I think, are 6/9, so they're a little bit taller on the first floor.
Okay, that sounds right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Any other
That's
questions,
right.
John?
Yes. The master bedroom on the second floor, do you have a dimension of the dimensions of that room by any chance? Not including the closet or the little alcove next to it, the main square.
The interior details of this are still being worked out, but it covers, I think, a 25-foot span from this exterior wall of the main house back to the end of the addition is about 25 feet.
So that looks like it's probably about an 18-foot square then, the main body of the
Yes,
bedroom?
roughly, yeah.
Okay.
So, Mr. Stolzen, I think typically, and I think you've had some conversations with Cade and Carlos about it, I think often
Yes.
we see the detailing of how you're going to do the trim and the connection from the addition into the existing building, things such as like what your railing is going to comprise of, existing window sections next to new sections. It's my understanding you have an architect that you are working with on that. So for my fellow commissioners, I think the idea too is to give him some input on how we feel about the proposed addition and its massing, its scale, and the proposed materials. And we would then ask you to obviously prepare those documents so that we can make sure that
Absolutely.
we know all the details. and-
Absolutely, sure, makes sense to me.
So if that helps you think about this in your mind and when you're asking questions, I think that is the hope for this review.
I think one thing that I would add, if those aluminum panels are original, I would suggest actually maintaining that. And the reason is that it actually gives a nice break to the addition, and when you look at the house, as it would be constructed, it visually you can see like that's the main house, this is the addition, and then you get to keep the detail too. It just is a nice way of.
Well, my thinking was to improve on the look of those walls, because it was my understanding that was originally a breezeway that when the home was built, that may not even have had much of a wall, any wall there. I'm not certain if that's correct or not. But so I would want this wall to look as close to the original architecture of the home as possible. And the condition of the aluminum and glass is not the greatest anymore. It's weathered a little bit, and I think there's certainly room for improvement on the appearance of that. So if you were recommending that it remain all aluminum and glass, And if that was the decision, I would replace it with new. I would think, because it just is, frankly, it's old and weathered.
Right, I mean, the material can change, it's just, I
Sure.
think that foot, setback, I think is just a nice detail to,
Oh.
to visually, show that this is the addition and this is. Yeah, the recess, I mean, the materials can change if it's not in great condition, but.
Also, the recess of it.
Does it recess on both
Yeah.
elevations?
The roof, I think from the roof plan, I saw that it kind of goes in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have considered on other cases that you replace with new materials that are similar in rhythm and size and spacing. But I think what the comment is that you keep that in the same plane and not push it back out.
Okay. If we could go back to the last, if you wouldn't mind, yeah, right here. So, right now, this wall that is currently recessed, if it remains recessed, it would interfere with the idea of this kitchen being enlarged, because then you'd have a bump out there.
Would the commissioners have an issue with keeping it on the entry as a suggestion and not on the other side? Is that, perhaps that's an option? I mean, we don't want to spend tonight to design your proposals, but we do want to give you
Understood.
feedback of how we see
Sure.
the historic so that it helps you.
Was there actually a photo of the west side?
Oh,
Yeah, because I think that would be important to give you feedback on, but if there's no photo, it's hard to do that.
yeah, apparently one was not provided.
I think that would definitely, oh, sorry, Jamie, but I think you definitely want to explore that with your architect, and then if you're going to come back with the details, that would be something you want to talk about.
Sure.
I just have another thought on alignment, and I might be misreading this, but I'm looking at the south elevation before and after in the second story. And it appears as though the second story is then extending further to the east than the footprint of the first floor. I don't know if it looks that way. So
Yeah,
if you
no,
would-
let's see.
So that's that south, oh gosh, that south elevation, and then go up a little bit.
Yeah, no, this garage would remain on the same face as the existing one.
Right, but would
So-
the second story align with that, or does that cantilever out there?
You know, I think it is going, it's supposed to align. Yeah.
I think that would be if I don't want to speak for the commission, but I think that would be our preference if it aligns. I think the cantilever poses for
Sure.
an element.
Yeah, I would have that drawing corrected.
Does anyone have any comments or feedback that they'd like to give about the windows? Or Carlos, go ahead.
Not necessarily the windows, but just to clarify a little bit, how visible is this section facade that we're talking about from the public way? How visible is it? Is it at all visible or partially visible? If it's not, all the comments you made, I think, will be recommendations rather than requirement, because we don't have purview over facades that are not visible from the public way. Now, if there's an alley, and from the alley you can see, so then definitely the commission will have purview over those elevations.
Yeah, absolutely, an alley there.
Okay.
But as
I think
far
it's
as-
nearly all visible from the alley.
Okay. So just to clarify, because it's important, all the comments that you are receiving from the commission. So in my opinion, if it's visible, so all the comments about the aluminum window, that they suggest to keep it, even though it might be new, and also the preference of having the cantilever that it shows on the elevation not be there.
Sure,
So all those corrections need to be made.
absolutely.
Okay.
Carlos, Cade, is the hope to continue this and bring it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think I'd like to bring it back in front of the full commission. I think that it lacks really the clarity that the commission probably needs to make a decision. But, David, maybe if there's any questions you have or input that you'd like from the commissioners, that might be a good use of time.
Okay, yeah, if I could ask you about the materials for the main siding, what your thoughts are about, or recommendations are about that. I would certainly want it to match the color of the brick as closely as possible.
So color isn't in our purview,
Okay?
and since the house is brick, you really,
It's
and I don't want to speak
painted
for my
white.
fellow commissioners, but it's really going to be what is proposed, and if it looks compatible with.
Yeah, in respect to colors, we cannot tell you what color, but the ordinance says that the color you choose should be compatible with
Okay, sure.
the house.
Yeah. Yeah, it's white painted brick house. So the siding, I would think I would try to use a very similar color to the paint on the brick.
I think the idea of keeping the metal panels, which Carl brought up, the aluminum link per se, and then having the rest of the ground floor be the brick to match, I think that would be more appropriate
Uh-huh, okay.
than introducing another material on the bottom.
Sure.
But as far as the second floor addition, I think that is something that has a little bit of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
I don't object to the change in material between the brick and the siding, but it's exacerbated by the massing and what's going on with the existing garage, the new garage, and the second story piece over the top of it. And I'm really looking for the end of the bedroom to not land over the new garage door. And I'm not going to design it for you, but there's a tension there that I think if it actually were all in brick, it would be less problematic. But if you're going to change material there, it would be great to see a reason for the second story bedroom to end where it does, and not over that door. There's something about the proportion of the facades and the solids versus the voids there that does not look compatible with that home or any colonial revival home.
You're speaking of the way it extends out beyond the garage?
Right where the cursor is, right there, where the end of the bedroom is over the garage door. So.
Right in the center of the garage door.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I was asking about the size of the bedroom is I'm wondering if the end of the bedroom, if that extended all the way to the end of the new garage, but the bedroom didn't, when we're looking at the east elevation, this second story part of the addition there, if that actually set back behind the brick, so that the bedroom overall size would probably be the same, wouldn't be a square, it'd be more of a rectangle. I think that the elevations would have more harmony and be more compatible with the existing home.
So if we lost this balcony,
Yes, or you added the balcony over the garage doors.
and just shorten and move this wall over
Yes.
to right in between the.
Or the curse where, go back to that elevation. Yes, the wall right there. What if that pushed back away from us so that the sun deck extended all the way across both garage doors?
Ah.
So I think the takeaway is to have your architect and you maybe look at the massing of how your second floor addition interacts with your addition of the garage below.
Okay.
I think something too, David, is that something really inherent to the colonial revival style is symmetry. And I think that there's something about the pattern of fenestration on the new addition that it just doesn't have the same rhythm. And so one of the suggestions that Commissioner Jacobs gave you, which was to shrink that portion, almost if you ended that addition here, what that would do inherently is provide a little bit more symmetry for your fenestration on that elevation. Might be something to explore.
So, and then hence maybe increasing the size of that balcony if this wall moved over?
So it would be a wraparound.
Or the bedroom extends all the way to when we're looking at the east elevation, the bedroom extends all the way to the left side of the new garage.
Eliminating
but shrinks in the other direction so that the porch only exists, the sun deck only exists above the garage doors on the east elevation and not on the south.
Okay. Okay. So,
Do you have any other questions that you wanted to ask us while you?
I don't think so.
And I'm sure Kate and Carlos would be happy to follow up with you as you.
Okay, great.
So
yeah.
what I think we'd like to do is make a motion to continue the case for 1018 Greenwood, if that's okay with you, to have you come back again, like after you've gone through with your architect and you've put together some of the details and you've worked
Okay,
with
sure.
Kate and Carlos.
Absolutely.
So is there someone that's willing to make a motion to continue this case? Jamie?
You'll have to give me the date of the May meeting, but
Do we know the next meeting?
have it
Kate's
ready.
going to look it up for you.
For 1018 Greenwood Street in the Ridge Historic District, case 22 Press 0032, I move that we continue this case to our next meeting, May 10th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Carl, second.
Is May 10th, is 1 month long enough for you to work with the architect and bring back a design?
It is.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. The motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, Kate, you want to update us on the minutes?
The minutes were not prepared, so I think we'll look at reviewing those at the May 10th meeting. I just ran out of time to review the video, and I wasn't at the meeting. And then the other items, there's 2 discussion items. The first is just a brief overview of the long-range plan. We've made quite a bit of progress where we started looking at goals, policies, and a list of initiatives, and I've gotten feedback from all subcommittee members now, so we'll look at scheduling a time that we can meet in person and try to finalize that. Ideally, we would bring that before the full commission in May. It aligns well just with Preservation Month. I think it's really quite an achievement for the commission, and it's been a lot of hard work for those subcommittee members. And then I think, Carlos, could you just mention some of the events that you discussed with some of our partner organizations for the month of May?
Sure. Thank you. I received some of the information from the WCTU. They have planned for the month of May, which is Preservation Month, the opening for public viewing on Sundays, May 1st and 22nd, and Thursdays, May 5th and 19th, with tours to take place on at 1, 2, and 3 p.m. That would be in their website. In our website, we create a flyer for these events, and then also for the Evanston History Center, they have a number of events planned for the month of May, with the highlighting the 47th annual Mother's Day house walk, and then also have other events throughout the month. On Saturday, May the 7th, they have a presentation about the Oakton Historic District on May 9th, and a presentation of the Yellow Line, the L, on May the 12th, and a dozen walk tour on May 7th and May 8th. So we are trying to collaborate with other organizations that have some common interest with the city and the Preservation Commission about history and culture and architecture. So we're in communication with them and see if we can collaborate more closely to kind of spread the word about the work of the Commission and preservation, and also help them in their own interests. So this would be our first attempt to do so, and we already had 2 meetings just to discuss, what are the things that we like to collaborate or highlight to the events that will enhance their presence in the community. Also, something that I did not mention, but I'd like to, is that if you recall, Dino Robinson had worked with the commission to obtain markers for some sites, buildings, or where the location of some buildings were, and he's planning to dedicate 2 other markers in the month of May. The locations yet to be determined. I'll be working with the Public Works Department so that we can help them to prepare the site for Dino. So he will be the one actually placing those markers, and we're going to be doing that throughout the year with new locations. So that's a very good success story where we are helping Dino Robinson's organization, Shorefront, with that cultural event.
Can you let us know when that's going to happen?
Yes, as soon as I get the information, I will share that with the commission.
Excellent. Anything else that we need to discuss? No? Anything from commissioners?
Just one quick question. The last case, how many times can we continue a case before they have to start over?
So they don't necessarily have to start over. You can continue it once. If they don't come back for the next meeting, all that means is you can continue that again. We would just have to renotice the case. So I can explain that to him, because it might take longer than he thinks.
And to that end, I think maybe we see what they come back with, but I will volunteer to do one of those informal meetings with their architect to go over things if we think that'll expedite it.
That's great. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
It's 8:20.
8:20, Beth?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Aleka seconds. All in favor? Aye. Great, thank you.